And then when I became big people now, because you're 18 and you're big people, so you're either going clubbing or you're going to a gospel concert. And I was going to the gospel concert with my beehive and my pack-hole jumper and my God. And me and my friend Michelle, my best friend's called Michelle, by the way, we used to go to the Well.
This is 1992, 91, 92. No social media, just people traveling. You know, I think Steve travelled from Derby until he started living in Birmingham. And we just were working this thing. And initially, you imagine we're taking gospel music, or this is how it was seen, into the highways and the byways. This is how we saw it. But sadly, the church saw us as taking gospel music out of church.
But the Well was a pivotal moment, I think, in Midland's gospel, because that's where young black Christians, regardless of your church, met regularly to hear good music.
And it started a lot of like gospel artists. That the Well started a lot of bands on their journey.
What was interesting about the makeup of the show, that we put Christian comedy and music together. So we moved away from your traditional compare of a concert to having a Christian comedian.
People were scared. Musicians that you may have interviewed as part of this.
Reid was always running and hiding.
Scared. Ian Reid, Paul Reid,
Ian Reid,
Ray Prince, the Prince brothers. When we used to appear on stage at the Well, they would scatter.
Delroy Hutchinson and Godfrey Gale. Whoa.
But Hutchinson and Gale, those guys deserve those mobos. Those guys deserve more than mobos. Because when I heard them sing at the Well to me represented the elite of the West Midlands gospel scene.
The standout Well that I remember that's just come to mind was Hutchinson and Gale when they became a duo and sang at the Well. And Godfrey Gale and Delroy Hutchinson's voices were amazing. Again, I have to use that word. They were superb.
And then it brought us to a place where I thought, you know what, we should apply to see if we can get to a larger audience. And the only way we could do that was if we had some sort of record deal. And so Ty Scott, record label from the United States, they came over to the UK and were doing auditions to see if they could find some British talent to put onto their roster. And so they staged the concert. We had to pay an entry fee, which I totally understood because the place had to be paid for. But long story short, we did it. And then after the event, the Reverend Tyson and the Reverend Scott, who were both there, called Godfrey and I to one side and explained that they wanted to give us a record deal. And we were obviously happy and ecstatic about it. But then they said, if they were to sign us, that it would just be Godfrey and I, and everyone else in the group would have to be pushed to one side. So my brother, Trevor, Ray, and all of them. And right then and there, we said no, because we'd been on the journey together, and granted, Hutchinson and Gale was our names, and we were the faces of the group, so to speak. But we felt a commitment and didn't think it would be right to just sort of kick everybody to one side for Ty Scott to then furnish us with their musicians and singers and what have you. Who knows, we might have done things differently with retrospect, but at the time it was the right decision for us. And I'm glad that we stuck to our guns.
So we started not only growing, we were collaborating with other promoters, which is quite a unique thing. So we're not only promoting, we're collaborating with other partners who add value. So they were able to bring Fred, and we said, okay, we'll showcase him in Birmingham. And Fred Hammond came, and I'm sure people will remember that concert. That was at Birmingham Town Hall. And that's where we heard Blessed for the first time. And I just remember that roof coming off in Birmingham Town Hall. It was amazing, and you could just hear the chorus of blessed, blessed. You just hear it rippling, and again, major success. There was probably, not far off 1,100 people in Birmingham Town Hall.
If I wasn't in comedy mode, there were some great well nights. You know, Sounds of Blackness. I remember Dawkins and Dawkins. I thoroughly loved watching them.
LCGC.
Yes. What was the group from London that I really loved? The choir is gone. They've got the title like an LCGC title. Okay. I can't remember what they're called now. Yeah. But there were so many. The standard of music at the Well was unbelievable.
I'll tell you what I miss. I miss the actual opening, Welcome to the Welcome.
That was one of the ones I was thinking of.
Brilliant song.
Welcome to the Well.
Yeah, and Paul, Ian Reid on bass. I'll never forget, he's just brilliant. He's just brilliant. And I bumped into Ian Reid in New York when he was playing for Ronnie Jordan.
Okay.
The guy's everywhere.
No, he's not. He's not.
I don't know where.
No, he's not everywhere.
Yeah, okay.
He's not everywhere.
New Life were one of those groups where they were special, especially when they first started recording. Now that I found you, the first release that they did with that, there was just an excitement. There was an excitement about them. There was a freshness. They were female. They were doing R&B. They didn't have your typical gospel voices, even though you heard those influences. They had people like Tony Bean working with them and stuff. And yeah, I just remember that particular concert because it was special. There's special moments in that concert where you just realise there's just such a wealth here in the Midlands.
They managed to showcase at the Well before I managed them. And it was Tony Bean who says to me, look, have you ever thought about artist management? And it was a bit of a joke. Artist management, no, I don't need to do artist management. I'm more than happy with this. Here we go again. Pick up a band, young girls that I'd been in church with, started to write with them, produce songs with them, and applied all of that so-called secular mainstream thinking to the music and to the production. We actually had interest from BMG for them because I took them down to the record company, had a meeting with BMG for New Life. And once we'd recorded the album, BMG actually thought it actually could be something we could do.
So finishing work at 3:30, Mike picking me up from work, and then to run to get Marianne from work. And then we'd already changed, but we didn't have our makeup. I just remember me and Marianne looking at each other at the back of the car, thinking, we're on our way to pick up a Mobo. No, we're going to a Mobo Awards, doing our makeup in the back of the car. Just finished work, so we're kind of like, you know what I mean? It was surreal. And then going there, and I think that was my first time actually experiencing the whole industry. Is sitting there, seeing Rihanna walk past. She wasn't as big as she was now. Caitley Holmes and all these faces, and what's her name? What's her name? And she started from the church as well. Misha Paris. She was there. And she was like, oh, my babies. But yeah, it was just surreal sitting there and then seeing how things run. I guess that was my first insight into how big can this get. So I think Diane she was either just had the baby or just, she was just giving birth at the time. So it was just me and Marianne and Beres in the auditorium. And so when they called New Life, we kind of sat there. No one knows us really. Well, clearly they do. So so we got the award, and then we came back to our seat. I went to work the next morning. That's how kind of well, for me, it was kind of, did that just happen?
Through the well, we managed to develop the first ever gospel radio programs. So even though there was Frank Stewart through the BBC, we managed to approach the first ever commercial radio station, and through a sponsorship by Uncle Sam Travel, we were able to sponsor Leroy Watts. So what people don't realize, Leroy Watts was a DJ on a pirate radio station doing gospel music. And I said to him, look, why don't you just, if I was able to get a sponsorship, would you come onto Galaxy Radio as it was then, back in the day? And we'd do a 2-hour show in the morning, sponsored by Uncle Sam Travel. And Leroy agreed. So what that meant was we had this 2-hour weekly show, not a monthly one, weekly gospel show where we could tell people who was coming on to the well, and we could play some of the music, and we could play the music of gospel origin week in, week out. So from Leroy Watts, we then went on to Nikki. So Nikki was also developing, and before she went to the BBC, she was on Galaxy, and also she took over from Leroy.
Then I had a call from BBC Local Radio around the end of 2002, going into 2003, to say, look, we're changing things for us here. The presenter at the time was the late Frank Stewart, who'd been doing the gospel programme of sorts on there for years, but they were changing things around, and they'd heard me, they wanted to talk to me about that. And so yeah, March 2003, I started at BBC Local Radio, covering primarily Radio WM and Coventry and Warwickshire, which is now BBC CWR. So that was my entry into radio and radio presenting gospel music.